Diaspora Investment Fund (DIF). Launch a regulated, government-guaranteed fund enabling diaspora contributions to infrastructure, agribusiness, housing, and healthcare. Operated under the Ministry of Finance, with diaspora board representation. Diaspora bonds. Introduce high-yield diaspora bonds with tax incentives and sovereign guarantees to fund key national priorities: energy, ICT, education, infrastructure. One-stop diaspora investment center. Establish a fully digitized center under the Ministry of Trade offering Filled Circle tax incentives, Filled Circle risk insurance, Filled Circle business registration and land acquisition support. Land Ownership Protection Act. Enforce land rights for diaspora members through a fraud tribunal, blockchain title verification, and digitized land registry systems. 9.3. Identity, citizenship, and social services. Dual citizenship optimization. Remove all bureaucratic and financial obstacles to acquiring dual citizenship. Automatically grant Ugandan citizenship to diaspora-born children under 18. Diaspora national ID and passport fast track. Establish 7-day issuance systems at embassies and consulates with real-time digital authentication. Diaspora Family Services Program. Offer psychosocial support, repatriation assistance, and services for elderly or distressed diaspora members, especially returnees. Youth Reconnection Program. Launch annual, government-funded cultural and innovation immersion trips for diaspora youth. 9.4. Education, health, and skills transfer. Reverse brain drain fellowship program. Facilitate temporary professional return fellowships, academic sabbaticals, and public service attachments for skilled diaspora Ugandans. Diaspora Professorial and Medical Network. Structure return missions for Ugandan experts abroad to teach, mentor, and collaborate with institutions back home. NUP Diaspora Civic and Innovation Academy. Build a virtual academy to deliver online civic education, entrepreneurship training, and policy innovation targeting both diaspora and Ugandan youth, human rights and global advocacy. Legal Aid and Justice Fund. Create a diaspora-supported fund to offer legal support to detained activists, survivors of abuse, and at-risk groups. Annual Diaspora Human Rights Scorecard. Publish a comprehensive report assessing Uganda's democratic and human rights performance. F. Party building and chapter development. Global Chapter Fund. Allocate performance-based grants to diaspora chapters to support outreach, organizing, and events. Unified Global Governance Framework. Adopt standardized protocols for diaspora chapter operations, reporting, and democratic leadership selection. Filled Circle NUP Digital Diaspora Portal. Filled Circle launch a centralized online platform for Filled Circle member registration and dues. Filled Circle event coordination. Filled Circle digital voting and communication. Filled Circle Global NUP Diaspora Convention Charter. Institutionalize an annual rotating convention to gather diaspora voices and align global strategies. Our foreign policy commitment. We will withdraw all non-carrier diplomats from our foreign missions. We will empower the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to take lead in our country's foreign relations instead of serving army officers determining how we relate with other countries. We will renegotiate agreements that front our interests, especially where Ugandan products are not taken in a reciprocal beneficial rights and duties from our partners. Establish publicly funded consular support services dedicated to Ugandans working in the Middle East. We will reconstruct all-inclusive foreign policy that fronts the interests of Ugandans at home and abroad in harmony with the EAC, African Union and the global community. We anticipate benefits. 1. Economic growth. Trade, diplomacy, and international relations will promote economic growth, increasing trade, investment, and revenue. 2. Global influence. A strong diplomatic presence will promote Uganda's interests and influence globally. 3. Cultural exchange. Cultural exchange will promote people-to-people diplomacy, increasing understanding and cooperation between nations. 4. National development. International relations will promote national development, including access to technology, expertise, and resources. Manifesto priority. 10. Ensure sustainable management of natural resources and climate resilience, including climate change detection, adaptation and mitigation. INTRODUCTION. Uganda is already experiencing some of the most severe impacts of climate change, despite contributing less than 0.1% of global carbon emissions, according to Climate Watch by the World Resources Institute. The country is among the most vulnerable to climate change due to its heavy reliance on natural resources and rain-fed agriculture. High exposure to climate variability, unsustainable land use, and ecosystem degradation threatens both individual livelihoods and national development ambitions. Uganda is already witnessing a gradual but persistent rise in average temperatures, shifting rainfall patterns, and more frequent and intense weather events, including floods, droughts, and landslides. These climate changes affect macroeconomic stability by reducing agricultural productivity, increasing water stress, and exacerbating health and infrastructure challenges. Agriculture, which employs the majority of the population, is particularly vulnerable to temperature and rainfall shifts. Such impacts are likely to slow productivity growth by undermining the availability and quality of essential inputs such as labor, due to health risks and displacement, and capital, due to damage to infrastructure and productive assets. These stresses increase fiscal risk by reducing tax revenues and driving up public spending on relief, health, and infrastructure repair. Extreme weather events further strain government budgets through emergency response, reconstruction efforts, and potential contingent liabilities related to public-private partnerships and loan guarantees. In this context, timely and well-coordinated policy action is critical to strengthening climate resilience and safeguarding development progress. Situation analysis. Uganda is increasingly experiencing the effects of climate change, manifested in the growing frequency and intensity of extreme weather events such as floods, landslides, and prolonged droughts. The country's high dependence on climate-sensitive sectors like agriculture, coupled with limited adaptive capacity, makes it highly vulnerable to the economic and social impacts of climate change. According to the World Bank's Country Climate and Development Report 2022, Uganda's nominal GDP could decline by up to 4% by the end of the century due to climate-induced shocks under a pessimistic, hot, climate scenario, characterized by higher global warming and lower levels of adaptation. In addition, the Ministry of Water and Environment estimates that without adequate adaptation, annual economic losses due to climate change could range between $3.2 billion and $5.9 billion between 2025 and 2050. These losses reflect damages across key sectors such as agriculture, water resources, infrastructure, and health. Climate change disproportionately affects the poor and vulnerable. Globally, the World Bank projects that 68 to 132 million people could fall into extreme poverty by 2030 as a result of climate-related shocks, with low-income countries like Uganda among the most affected. This could reverse hard-won development gains and significantly increase social protection needs. Uganda's public finances are also increasingly at risk under more severe climate scenarios. An IMF fiscal stress model indicates that by the end of the century, under a hot scenario, public debt could rise by more than 18% of GDP relative to a baseline. The already unsustainable 54% debt to GDP ratio could worsen beyond jumping beyond the unsustainable trajectory. And the primary fiscal deficit is projected to worsen by 0.7% of GDP compared to the baseline due to climate change. This suggests that climate change is not only an environmental and social challenge, but also a serious fiscal risk, with long-term implications for Uganda's debt sustainability. While climate adaptation can significantly reduce long-term economic and fiscal damage, it cannot eliminate these impacts entirely. Moreover, delayed adaptation increases macrofiscal vulnerability, worsening the effects on economic growth, public debt, and service delivery. At present, Uganda lacks robust econometric models and country-specific datasets that clearly link adaptation investments to macroeconomic and fiscal outcomes. This data gap limits the government's ability to optimize climate policy and financing decisions.